infographic that I came up with, which kind of summarizes the whole education that we'll be following, that the child is at the center, and the child is a flower that has to be nourished, not like a metal that has to be hammered, as the mother says, into shape. Today's education tries to think of a child as a piece of matter which has to be hammered into an engineer or doctor. But we visualize the child as a flower. You cannot make a flower happen, right, of a particular color, of particular size. All we can do as gardeners is to create the ecosystem, to give it the best, earth, sunlight, water, and so on. So as teachers, facilitators, and parents and educators, we can only create a good ecosystem and allow the child to flower. And from the Vedanta, from the Upanishads, we have the three aspects of Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, and Adhyatma. These are three aspects. Adhibhuta is the material consciousness, matter, right? Matter, Adhibhuta means all that the senses can perceive. So that is the knowledge of nature. The knowledge of nature, nature that God has created, is Adhibhuta, the material world around us. And that we can learn through natural world and how the world works. And it can be done only through contextual education, and that gives rise to material freedom. You know that in India, most of the villages are being abandoned by the villagers and they're moving to cities. And I see that's also happening in countries like Spain, etc. That's because even though the villagers are very rich in a lot of livelihood opportunities and minerals, but the education is not empowering them to take, to take advantage of that context and to do something meaningful. And olden India was absolutely self-reliant because every village was self-sufficient for 80% of their staple needs. All the food that they ate, they grew themselves, the clothes, etc. So there was no breakdown of global supply chains as it happened during COVID. Most of America and Europe that is dependent on outside to get their basic needs also, like food, it broke down. Even right now with Ukraine war, there is something called the energy crisis happening in UK because they are importing energy. Whereas Indian system was local self-sufficiency. And that's what happens when the material world has been mastered through contextual education and we are materially free. Then we have Adhidaiva. Adhidaiva is the non-material forces within us, which are our emotional and mental faculties. And that is our relational world, a relation with each other, the knowledge of society. And that can be enhanced through all the man-made world and ideas that change the world. Our judiciary, our constitution, our educational systems, everything that man has created. And that happens through higher order thinking when we develop, intuitive ways of thinking and deeper ways of feeling. And that gives us social transformation because contextually you may be very rich, let's say in a place like Afghanistan. But if you're surrounded by Taliban and there is no social transformation, then you cannot have a fulfilled life. So from material freedom, we move to social transformation. And finally, Adhyatma is spirituality, knowledge of oneself. That is inculcated through who am I and how do I express myself. And that happens through experiential education, when we engage and through lived experience, immerse ourselves. And that gives rise to personal transformation. Because you may have material freedom and a great social structure like the Scandinavia has, but also it has very high suicide rates, for instance, because maybe the component of personal transformation and spirituality is missing. And this is how you also combine matter through matter and spirit. And this is the kindergarten, this is the infographic I came up with, which would be on display at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London as Pedagogy of the Future, as a permanent exhibit. And the school, this is what we follow in our university. And also I'm developing a school, a kindergarten to 12th school around this. And I asked the architects and I worked with them that the structure of the school should represent this, and they came up with that structure like that. It's an infinite learning loop, because learning is spiral. It never ends, but you come back to the same idea of who am I after 10 years, but in a deeper way. Then you keep coming back to that. So that infinite loop here. And this is how, this is the architectural drawing. It will be done like this. And a lot of features are built into it. Like for children who are hardly 2 feet tall, the world is a very scary place, The adults are big and everything is big. So if they can get onto something, they are not scared of it anymore. So the school is designed in a way that they can just go up on the school. They are like over the school. And it is seamless. There is no classrooms. This is the architectural drawing, but the foundation has already started, is already completed. It will be launched next year, 25th. Next year it will be starting. Yes, in Ladakh. So the child can from here run up on the school and be back. And then there is a seamless inner and outer learning. So it's not like classroom based. Like for instance, how the world works, which is all physics. That area will open up to a gym where through motion they will learn momentum and all of that. Similarly, natural world will open up to a geodesic dome, which will have all the plants in it. So they just walk out into that space to learn it and so on. This is how it will look.